Ladies and gentlemen, good evening, and welcome into Alex Para Dance Party. No, that's just my music. Another evening, another version of Live at Night, Deportes Nation Live at Night. You don't see us yet. You will very, very soon. Norma, we're actually on the air, so I'm shocked about that. And on time, which is really the most impressive thing out of all of this. So there you go. That was Alex's dance party. And now the official welcome. Hi, I'm Alex. That over there is Norma. Norma, how are you this evening? Happy Monday. Can we say that? How are you?
I'm doing good, Alex. I know it doesn't even seem like a Monday. To me, it still seems like the weekend.
Yeah, so we should just keep drinking, Norma?
I guess keep drinking.
What? Yeah. It's the weekend. Just keep drinking. It doesn't matter.
It's the weekend.
Norma, what shirt have you got on today? Norma's always representing now. We're going to have to make this a tradition, Norma. What do you got there?
I got the Houston Texans.
Houston Texans. Are you excited, Norma? Are you ready for NFL to come back?
I am.
Yeah?
I'm ready, but when it's time, whenever they want to come back, I'm okay with. But I am ready for football,
You're like, just take your time, but eventually you'll be ready.
Yeah, it'll get here. Yeah.
Norma, how was your weekend? And a little birdie told me there's good news in your family. Not that you have, that you're pregnant or anything. That's not what I mean.
Well, so far, we got tested again yesterday, and my husband came negative, of course.
Good.
And I retested, and
you failed this time.
Well, you know what? The thing is like now in your mind, you feel like you have to constantly check yourself.
Right.
Making sure symptom-wise, etc. I mean, I literally, Alex, I had to buy myself
what is that, Norma?
A thermometer, just to check.
Okay.
Just make
I
sure,
do that too, but I use the rectal one, Norma, just so I can make sure. We just lost the audience, Norma.
They just lost the audience.
We just lost the audience. Norma, there's been a lot of, now that you talk about, first of all, I'm very happy for you and for your husband and for your family, honestly. And I'm going to go in a different direction, and I have to set it up this way. A lot of families, Norma, are now, or a lot of people are now doing, remote consultations with their doctor, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're going and they're doing it. And Norma, my mother went, and she had a consultation with apparently her gynecologist. At least that's what the guy said. He said he checked her out, no problem, and that's the way she does it now, Norma. Online gynecology. I don't know if that's going to catch on, but too much, Norma? Too much?
Too much. But I think these days now, Alex, I mean, the majority of the doctors, they would rather do an online, I guess, virtual visit rather than in person unless it's an emergency.
But still charge us the same amount.
Right. It still charges the same, exactly.
Wow. Well, a lot to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. How was your weekend? No one's asked me how my weekend was, Norma. And she still hasn't asked me, but that's okay.
How was your weekend, Alex?
Norma, I'm glad you asked. I'm not going to talk about it, Norma. Actually, Norma, it was good. Just kind of trying to relax a little bit, getting out there and in the Houston heat, running around a little bit, actually, trying to keep up with my kids running and jogging. So that's a good thing. It's at my age, Norma, just getting out of bed is a positive. So I'm excited to be running around. But Norma, a lot to talk about. We also want to ask anyone that is interested in watching us to, what's the word, Norma? Share this, right?
Share this, like it, comment, all of the above.
All of the above. We want people to share. Norma, how do we get more people to share? Do we have to pay them money? Is that how it works? Yeah? Because I'm in, Norma. I'll do it. I have no problem with that. We also want to
You can send
ask
them a check,
anyone
right?
that is interested in How do we do it, Norma? Watching us to what's
share?
the word, Norma? Share this,
I'm
right?
here,
Norma. I've tried to
share
share
this.
Norma.
Yeah, like it, comment, all of the above.
All of the above. We want people to share. I have no idea what's happening, Norma. I press the same button, I can't even share. So I'm learning. I'm learning. It's gonna be a process for Uncle Alex to figure these things out. So riveting show right now when Alex can't figure out even how to get to the page where the Portas Nation is on. Norma, let's start off with a little soccer. I know you're a big MLS fan tonight. The Houston Dynamo on the field. We have a little bit of video that was shot earlier today. The Houston Dynamo taking on LAFC. The first match for both clubs in the MLS is Back tournament. Final score, not a spoiler for anyone, the match is over. 3-3, the Dynamo with a lead, Norma. They were up 3-1 and just couldn't actually hold on to the victory. But it was an entertaining match. It was a good match as far as the quality of soccer. And we can get into, if you want, a little bit of the match stats and things of that nature. To me, it was a good first step, Norma. If nothing else, it was good to see the teams, both teams, LAFC without Carlos Vela, Bob Bradley's team, taking on Tab Ramos's team, the Houston Dynamo. It was good to see the Orange back out there on the field, Norma.
Yeah, it's interesting, Alex, because I was looking at the stats earlier, and, of course, it's tied 3-3. But if you look at the stats, I mean, LAFC, they had like 71.5% possession throughout the whole game.
Wow.
23 shots. And 23 shots and 6 shots on goal. So, their percentages, their stats are a lot higher than Dynamo's, and at the end of the day, they wind up tying. So,
well, the way I saw it, Norma, and I wasn't watching the entire match in and out. The high pressure that Tab Ramos wants obviously puts pressure on the defensive side of any team. And tonight, of course, it was LAFC. But that pressure also leaves a lot of openings. And I think the teams, in this case, the Dynamo, also just ran out of gas. And Bob Bradley's team, LAFC, was able to kind of pick them apart a little bit. Some positives, without a doubt, Norma, that at least I saw from the Dynamo was a good effort, coming out strong. Couldn't quite hold on to that lead. But the main thing, again, I repeat, to me was at least getting back on the field. Memo Rodriguez with 2 goals, Albert Ellis with a third, a beautiful header before halftime, and then they were up 3-1 going into halftime. You would think that at that point you find a way to at least get a victory if possible, get the 3 points, but they walk away with 3 points against a very good, a very solid LAFC team. So again, positive steps. Do I wish Houston would have picked up the 3 points? Absolutely. And Norma, the team itself in Orlando, the team itself getting acclimated not only to getting back on the pitch, not only to playing their first match like they did this evening of the MLS is back, but also having to deal with the COVID situation. So a few days ago, and I believe this was on Sunday, yesterday, Coach Tab Ramos had a couple of comments pertaining to whether or not he's worried about the COVID situation, of course, because 2 teams already in this tournament have not been able to play. They actually have gone home. We're talking about FC Dallas and Nashville SC. So why don't we listen to Tab Ramos pertaining or answering a question regarding his safety and the team's safety and whether or not he feels comfortable in Orlando.
Is there a worry? You always worry a little bit, of course. But I think, we feel safe. We feel like we're in a good spot. Our medical group has done an amazing job to keep us safe. I think the players have also done an amazing job in terms of staying away from where they shouldn't be and being as professional as they can to sort of protect each other and our families, because we know we owe each other. We all owe to each other, and they've done a great job with that. So we're very happy with where we are and how we're doing things.
There were the comments from Tab Ramos, talking specifically about how he is comfortable in this situation. Speaking of that, apparently we lost Ms. Norma, so we'll have to figure out a way to kind of, I guess, keep the show going. There's a couple of options. What could we do? Well, that's probably not a good option. How would we do this? How would we do, oh, there you go, a double take of Alex Parra. Wow. I don't know if that's going to get us any ratings, but hopefully we'll have Miss Norma back, or at least try to get Miss Norma back. Wow, seeing double. I don't know how healthy that is to be seeing two Alex Parras. Is that how you said it? Two Alex Parras. So in the meantime, and we'll see if we can get Miss Norma back. Hopefully she'll be back with us. Thanks for you that are watching us. Missy is with us this evening. Missy, thank you. Thanks for watching two of us. Let me see. I can even pull this off the right way. Look at this. Wow, that's scary. Obviously, that's not Norma. It's two Alexes. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see if the ratings go up or the ratings go down. Thank you for joining us, and good evening. And we're trying to get Ms. Norma Morales back. Hopefully we can. If not, this is what you have to live with. A show with Uncle Alex. I don't know, that's a good thing. What do you, ladies and gentlemen, think? Wow. Oh, man, it's bad enough looking in the mirror, but when you have to see two of you, well, you know, at least I don't have my glasses on. Then I could really, really be in trouble. So that was Tab Ramos talking about, and prior to tonight's match, about his team, how they are concerned, of course. They're always concerned. All of us are, I think, in this COVID-19 world. But Tab, a little bit later, also spoke about, on the soccer side, being in this group. This group is called the Group of Death because of the quality of teams in it. It's Group F in the MLS is Back tournament. Tonight we saw Houston, the Dynamo, taking on LAFC. And just now, as I look over one of my monitors, the Galaxy are taking on Portland, the other two teams in this group. So here Tab Ramos talks a little bit about, well, whether or not this is good or bad for his team being in this group of death. Here's Tab Ramos.
We're going to do the best we can to do that. I mean, obviously, we're preparing as much as we can to do that, and I'm sure the other teams have as well. Of course, you can see in some of the matches that the timing is off a little bit for everyone, but I think that's normal and to be expected to a certain extent. Obviously, we hope that on Monday the game goes perfect for us. That's what we work towards. But I know it's been a long time since we played. You know, and in terms of being in the group of death, I think this is a good scenario for us. I think this is just what we need. We need to get tested. For me as a new coach, it's important for me to see, you know, what the best teams are doing and how they play and where we are and how far we need to go if it's that far at all. So I'm excited to be in this group and to be playing great teams.
I like that attitude that he has actually said, you know what, we want to take on strong teams. We want to measure ourselves against the best. Arguably, LAFC is the best team in MLS tonight, a 3-3 draw in Orlando. That shows something. That shows that Houston can play and is able to play at that level. So that's a positive. And it's good in this new era of Tab Ramos that the Dynamo are not shying away at all from playing big teams. And you know, we've all been thrown into this COVID-19 world. We're all trying to figure it out. And you can hear from Tab, you know what? Let's take it on. Let's do the best we can. And I think that's a sign of excellence. Not trying to be mediocre, not trying to just get by, but at the end of the day, trying to be the best team, ideally in MLS if possible. So you're watching double Alex, as you can tell, because Ms. Norma, apparently, we've lost the contact with Norma. So thanks for putting up with me. We'll try to maybe work the graphics a little bit differently here in a second. But the other thing we wanted to talk about, first of all, those of you that have comments or questions, by the way, help me out. I think that'll make it easier. If you have a question for me, if you have a comment, please send it our way. Missy, like I said already, she's laughing about something, so it must be the double Alex, the double jeopardy of Alex. By the way, the ratings are dropping, ladies and gentlemen, just to let you know. Right now, the ratings without Norma are not good, so hopefully we'll get Norma back with us very soon. But another news we wanted to talk about today was this young man, Russell Westbrook, player with the Houston Rockets. He tested positive for COVID, and he did not travel with the Houston Rocket team. So actually, he is saying, you know what, at this point in time, I have tested positive. I'm doing well. I'm isolating, and I can't wait to get back to be with my team. So that's pretty big news when it comes to the Houston Rockets in particular, as they get ready to start off what will be the continuation of the NBA season, kind of, again, a mini tournament, and also in playoffs. So it really is, I should say, an opportunity for Houston, for any team. But by the same token, I think it's realistic not to have too many expectations, if you will, of of some teams, especially without their superstars. So the note today, breaking news, if you will, a little earlier in the day was that Russell Westbrook testing positive. So we made a few adjustments, ladies and gentlemen. Now you only have one shot of Alex Parra, not having Miss Norma Morales, who apparently we can't get back. So our apologies for that. Hopefully we'll be able to speak with her a little bit later, but you're stuck with Uncle Alex now the rest of the way. So I need a little bit of your help to kind of get us through the show if you have questions or comments. If not, we're flying solo and we'll do the best we can. So that's the news with Russell Westbrook. And another bit of news that comes out of the leagues that are trying to start up, if you will, and the NFL. Big story here. Finally, after 80 years, the name of the Washington NFL team, and I guess I can say it now, the Redskins, will change. The way it's being phrased is that the team is retiring the name of the Redskins. Good move, bad move, necessary move? I think the team gave in to the reality that the economic pressure, sponsors and fans alike said, you know what, it's time to get this done. I actually applaud ownership. I applaud the NFL. I applaud that they've taken this position to go ahead and make a change. And I say, why not? It was time. It's time that we evaluate in a certain way. There's other teams that I think their time has come. What about teams like the Cleveland Indians? Even the Atlanta Braves? I think it's time for them to realize, to look at the reasoning behind those nicknames. What is behind it, the reason behind it, and hopefully make some modifications, make some changes. So at the end of the day, the news that comes out today at the NFL is that the Redskins will be no longer. So the question is, what should their nickname be? Should it be related to government, to DC, the Washington, DC area? Should it be completely unrelated? In a way, this is also a way for them to remarket themselves completely, to really come out and just come out with a completely different name, come out with a completely different even color scheme. So it's a balance whether or not this is going to be attractive to fans. And it really is a change. And it's putting away a nickname that to many, including this host here, have been offensive for many, many years. So there you go. That's the news from the NFL. The NFL also trying to prepare, trying to get back. They will not be in bubbles per se. They're training in their own facilities as they prepare now, or will be preparing very soon, I should say, here toward the end of July. I believe the 25th is when the Houston Texans will be reporting and getting ready for their season. I honestly think, ladies and gentlemen, that there will continue to be modifications. As you have seen and heard here on Deportes Nation at night, I should say live at night, it's the official name of the show, we see that college sports are having to change their normal approach to seasons, especially in football. Big time football, to all of us, I think is going to be a guide about what can be done, about how things should be done, and about how things will be done. I think that's another part of something we have to consider. Lately, especially in the state of Texas, I become a little bit more pessimistic about whether or not we will actually be able to open up safely schools. Let's talk about universities, and whether or not those universities, if opened up safely, will ever be able to get on the field this fall. What do you think, ladies and gentlemen? Is it possible that they will be able to get on? And if I had Ms. Norma next to me, I'm sure she would have her comments. So I want to apologize. We've lost Ms. Norma. So just to give you an update, she's usually with me. Today we had some technical issues, so we're trying to get her back. And trust me, the moment we can get Ms. Norma back, she, by the way, will make the show a lot better, number one. And number two, our ratings will go up. Because I notice when Uncle Alex talks, the ratings disappear. So if you guys have questions or comments, at least via Facebook, it's taken me about 3 weeks to figure this out, but I can finally see that people are watching. Hopefully they're enjoying well, today I don't know if they're enjoying what they're seeing, just Uncle Alex by himself, but we'll give it a shot. We'll do the best we can. By the way, Delia says hola Delia, gracias por acompañarnos. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for being with me tonight. I guess we started out with Norma, and Norma, apparently we've lost her on a technical little problem, but we'll get her back, and hopefully we'll try to get her back tonight. If we can, for sure, we'll get her back tomorrow. So that's some of the news that's going on. Also yesterday, we talked earlier about the Houston Dynamo. Tonight, a 3-3 draw with the team from LAFC. That's Bob Bradley's team. Those of you that follow MLS, that follow U.S. soccer, will know who Mr. Bob Bradley is. Actually, he coached in Europe as well. So definitely, I should say, one of the top coaches in U.S. soccer. Yesterday, by the way, and we're going to roll a little footage of the Challenge Cup. We had the Washington Spirit taking on our hometown, as I call them, the Houston Dash. And it wasn't the result that Houston wanted or needed. They are into the Challenge Cup, as we're calling it. This was their last game in the group stage. And you will see eventually the team from Washington finding the way to score a 1-0 victory. That was not the goal. That was some good defending there from the Dash. A lot of pressure over Jane Campbell's goal. Pretty much a goal line save. And here, a little bit later in the match, you see a free kick from Washington. Good save. Again, Jane Campbell, one of the top goalkeepers in NWSL. She's also had some stints with the U.S. women's national team. And I believe here comes the only goal of the match. There it was. In the, what is that, the 15th minute, Washington taking the lead. And that really was enough for the Washington team to pick up the 3 points. And that really leaves Houston, the Dash, in a situation where they will go on to the next round, the quarterfinals. I believe most teams in the tournament are going to the quarterfinals. I think what you have to talk about next is whether or not they're going into the quarterfinals with confidence. And I think that's all part of it. By the way, the virtual watch party, I think, was awesome. That's the way many of us are now interacting with our favorite sports and, without a doubt, interacting with the NWSL. And Houston had some chances. Houston had some possibilities. But at the end of the day, they walk away without points. And why don't we listen to one of the Dash players talking about the 4 matches that played up to this point. The 4 matches, and the last one yesterday, a 1-0 loss against the Washington Spirit. But why don't we listen to Christy Mewis talking a little bit about the team, how she feels as the team now gets ready for the quarterfinals. Here is Dash player Christy Mewis.
I still think we're very confident. We had 2 very first great games. And then these past 2, obviously our third one wasn't awesome, but I think today our second half was much better than the first, but we still have a lot to work on. So I'm really glad that we have this next couple of days to kind of work on building with the ball, keeping it better. I think that's what we struggled with the most. So yeah, we're just going to do that all this week, and I think we're still feeling really confident about going into the quarters.
So there you go. It's a balance of knowing, we started the tournament really, really well. We have to maintain our optimism. And I think for the ladies, they've had a lot of matches. If I'm not mistaken, 4 matches in the span of 13 days. At the NWSL, the first league to get back into competition in this COVID world. So there's a lot weighing on them, and that's precisely what Coach James Clarkson, I should say, the Dash head coach, talked about. The pressure that these ladies are going through in the moment. So why don't we listen to James Clarkson talking a little bit more about his team as they've gotten through the preliminary round of this Challenge Cup.
You've got to appreciate the pressure that these players have been under through the whole of the build-up and being in the tournament. Everything that's going on socially in the world at the moment. Our players are very active and they understand what's going on and dealing with those things away from football. And then the pressures of being here, making squad, performing, trying to get into the starting 11, playing in games, not playing in games. There's just a lot. And then being in a hotel that we can only walk around the parking lot, we can't get out, we don't get a break. We've played every 4 days for the last just over 2 weeks. So it's just an accumulation of everything that's just building up, and it's very, very tough. And it's the hotel, you're in the hotel room, it's hard, it's a real grind, and I know every team's going through it.
What he says there is obvious, that every other team is going through it as well. And in some way, all of us are going through it. All of us are having to adjust to a new reality, to a new way of doing things in what seems normal or natural. In this case, athletics, sports and athletes, they're used to training, they're used to playing matches, they're used to the travel, and now things have changed. Even the perspective of going away and being in a bubble, like many of us are staying within our world, maybe our home. We go out maybe to get provisions, to pick up food, and then we're home, and that basically is it. Now try to see it from the point of view of an athlete who has traveled somewhere and literally staying in your hotel room other than training. It's not a bad life, they're not suffering, but it certainly is not the world that athletes and others that travel get to see. At least if you're away, maybe you go out, you get to see a movie, you get to see a local landmark, you go out for a nice meal. At least that's the way it was. These days, again, the restrictions we have, I think, are putting pressure on all of us. That mental, that psychological aspect that I think we forget about. So the Dash team not ending necessarily the way they wanted out of the group stage. What comes for them next, I should say, are the quarterfinals, and them continuing on. We'll see what James Clarkson team I should say can do this in this Challenge Cup. I think they have a great opportunity to really hopefully win the cup if they could, because you have to remember, for the NWSL, this is their season. This is it. There won't be any of their matches beyond that. So they're really limited in what they can do as far as competition. After that, the ladies are basically, well, we'll see what happens next. So again, it's this balance that is affecting every one of us. How do we deal with it? How do we maintain our strength through all of this, mental and physical and psychological? And I think that's something Norma and I talk about a lot. Norma herself, as you know, and she shared that with us earlier today before we had technical difficulties. She tested negative. Her husband tested positive for COVID, but eventually tested negative in the last couple of days. So that's good news. But I'm sure there is a psychological and mental effect to that weighs on everyone. So today, as you can see, Alex Parra flying solo. If any of you have questions or comments, please send them my way. We'll try to get through the show as best we can. We started the show talking a little bit about the MLS, the Houston Dynamo tonight, in their first match of the MLS is Back tournament in Orlando, taking on LAFC, Bob Bradley's team, and a 3-3 draw, a 3-3 final. So you can say that's a positive. Houston actually was up in that match 3-1 at halftime. So from that perspective, you can see that maybe the Dynamo didn't quite have enough tonight to finish up the game. And if you have comments about the game, if you watched it, please reach out, send me a comment, send me a message, and keep me going here on the show tonight, flying solo. We also talked a little bit about the NBA and the situation with Russell Westbrook, player for the Houston Rockets, testing, I should say, positive for COVID. He didn't fly with the team to Orlando, by the way. The location where the MLS is Back tournament is also being held. So two leagues there, the MLS and the NBA, in the same vicinity. He did not go with the team, and neither has James Harden. So it makes you think, I don't want to speculate, could it be that James Harden maybe has also tested positive and hasn't released that information? I'm speculating, maybe I shouldn't. I don't have any information to definitively say that, but we'll see when and if James Harden joins the rest of the Rockets team. So a little bit of NBA. We talked about the Redskins, talking about the NFL a little bit, and of course MLS soccer and NWSL soccer. If you guys have some comments or questions, again, please send them my way, and we'll find a way to get you, if you can, get to the answers for the show. Today, again, Alex flying solo, mainly because we've had some technical difficulties with Ms. Norma Morales, but I'm sure we will. We're going to try. If we can't get her back at a certain point, we might just say buenas noches and kind of reset for another day. So that's the way things go. That's the way life is sometimes. And the other aspect that we wanted to talk about today with Norma was the plan for reopening schools. I know that many schools, at least in the Texas area, school districts are now coming out and saying, okay, here is our plan for return. I believe that we've had some extremes as well. There are some schools, I believe LA and San Diego schools, if I'm not mistaken, out in California, have said they will not return to in-person classes, and they will only be doing remote classes or via internet, I guess, right? Is that the right term? Someone can help me with that. In Texas, I think what we're trying to do, there are some districts that are not coming back. I've already said that in person. There are other districts that have said, well, we're going to give you a choice where you can be physically present in school. I believe there are some restrictions and there's some guidelines, or you can have remote learning. You know, I'm torn about this one. Our safety and our health is the most important thing, period. I also understand that school districts like sports, and we've talked about the sports industry. There is a whole school industry. Teachers, staff, bus drivers, companies that have contracts with school districts, they all depend on the schools being open. They all depend on the business that comes from schools, from students. It's part of, from distribution of books to all kinds of things that I can't even enumerate right now. People depend on school districts, and if those school districts aren't working and they close the schools, obviously there's a financial hit to that. I think where I'm confused is the mixed, not only guidance, the mixed messages we're getting from our government. As many of you know, President Trump, and we can have the discussion about President Trump or not, he has said we need to get schools back, even to threaten withholding funds for school districts that refuse to do that. By the same token, the CDC and the Department of Education are also giving guidelines that are flexible depending on your school district's situation. So what is the rule? What is the guideline? And that's where I think it gets tricky and complicated. And it plays not only on our anxiety, it plays on us not being sure, ladies and gentlemen, about whether or not we would have our children risk that and go back. But it's also playing into the political game between Republicans and Democrats. I think, to me, it's very clear. The Republicans are saying, go forward, go conquer, everything's fine. Democrats are saying, no, it's not. We need to think, we need to hold back. I tend to think the reality is somewhere in the middle, maybe, where yes, we need to have a plan to move forward, but do we need to rush? And what are the consequences of rushing? Is there a repercussion if we don't get it right? So it really is a tricky situation. And I know I'm not talking about sports right now, but it plays into how we're going to live out, I guess, the rest of our fall. And well, we got to get through summer first, of course. But for most school districts, they have to get a plan. And I also understand school districts and superintendents and school boards, they're human and they're going to make mistakes and they're not going to get it right. But under these circumstances, who gets it right? You're either lucky or you're not, I guess. But we have to have some guidance. And I believe the best guidance is science. But again, when science also becomes politicized, where do we end up? And I think that's one of the biggest problems we have, that in this election year, and it could be any year, the reality or the facts tend to get lost. And that's one of the biggest problems. What I do say, though, is that we should all have a voice. And our children should not be penalized if we choose X or Y. And the responsibility of that really lies with all of us. We all have to do our part. And it takes every one of us being conscious of that. There is now a new normal. Normal, as it was, I believe, has disappeared. Look at it in sports. Every day we're bringing you stories about players testing positive, about teams not participating, about arenas changing their approach to whether or not they'll open, and eventually how many people will be allowed to open. Tonight, watching, I think it was earlier in the day, a USL soccer match, Oklahoma City against Tulsa, and there were people in the stands. Forgive me, I don't have the details about how many people and what their guidelines were. The match, I'm pretty sure, was in Oklahoma. Forgive me, I don't know who the home team was. I just caught a little bit of the match. But there were people, fans, in the stands. So fans are back in certain competitions. Good or bad, is that a risk they have to take? Is there responsibility or liability for that? It's one of those things where we don't know yet the consequences of that. We know the consequences of not using a mask. We know the consequences of gathering in groups and not really thinking twice about it. There is a consequence, which is people, as we test more, will have positive tests. The question is, does that lead to a prognosis of the worst case? Not necessarily. And that's another thing we have to weigh. So I'm like many of you. I don't have the answer or pretend to have the answer. I think it's an ongoing dialogue. I think it's an ongoing conversation. And I think we have to find a way to balance it. Balance what we see in front of us. And of course, Texas may be different than Wyoming, and maybe different than New Hampshire, and maybe different than New Mexico. So we have to have, I guess, that flexibility. But at the end of the day, the problem is we're still all in this together. And I mean globally. Globally, we're all in this together. What happens in Asia, in Latin America, in Europe, affects all of us. So we've got to find a way, because the world now has become so small in some ways. We all have to find a way to work with each other. And it's easy to blame, and it's easy to say, well, it was over there and those people, and I get it. That's a natural instinct to deflect. But the reality is we've got to find a way to deal with this, to fix it and move forward. And fix it means what? That we all have to adapt. We all have to change. And what Norma and I have talked about, we all have to be flexible. The sporting world has to be flexible. I point over here because I'm watching the halftime match, or halftime right now, the match between LA Galaxy and Portland, the same group where the Dynamo are. So tonight, missing Ms. Norma Morales. Unfortunately, we've had some technical issues, so we will not, I'm being told, we will not be able to get her back. So what I will do, ladies and gentlemen, is basically, unless you have some questions or comments, I'll sign off for the evening. I can't thank you enough for being with us, and we'll try to do it right? Play our little music, make sure we get out of here in a friendly way, just like we do every day. Let's see if we can play some music. There's Alex's disco music. So on behalf of Ms. Norma Morales, and unfortunately she couldn't be with us the whole program, I can't thank you enough for watching, for following us. If you have any questions, I'll wait around just a little bit, but if not, we will be back. By the way, remember that we have Deportes Nation en vivo al mediodía, noons, Monday through Friday at noon with Enrique Vasquez. Beside me, around me, somewhere, he kind of finds a way to gravitate toward the show. And at 10 p.m., usually, it's not only Alex Parra, it's not only Uncle Alex, but it's also the lovely and talented Miss Norma Morales. So for now, for today, thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Take care of yourselves. Be strong, be safe. And until next time, here on Deportes Nation.